Today we are going to do a landscape, and a landscape is basically a picture of nature. It's a picture of the outside world. So the first thing I want you to do, if your paper is vertical, or what artists call portrait mode, I want you to turn it on its side horizontally. This is called landscape mode. And there are two tricks I want to teach you today. These tricks are something that artists do when they are doing a landscape to make things look like they're really, really far away or really close. And those two things are the placement, where they put the objects on their paper, and the size, how big or small they draw the objects on the paper. So again, those two tricks are the placement and size. And it's really, really important that you understand three things when it comes to landscapes: foreground, middle ground, and background. So you see how I used my hands when I said that? I said foreground and my hands were down low, middle ground and my hands were in the middle of my paper, and background and my hands were at the top of my paper. So let's do that together. Everybody put your hands down low at the bottom of your paper and say foreground. Move your hands up to the middle of your paper and say middle ground, and move your hands up to the top and say background. Okay, let's do that one more time. Foreground, middle ground, background. Excellent. So that is where you're going to place your objects, in the foreground, middle ground, and background. And then I want you to think about this. I want you to think about big, medium, small. So again, let's take our hands down low and say big and make them really big. And then move your hands up and say medium. And then move your hands up high and say small. We're going to do that one more time. Big, medium, small. All right, so I'm going to show you with three really simple trees exactly what I'm talking about. Remember, size and placement are the two tricks that we want to learn today. And foreground, middle ground, and background are going to help us do that. So I'm going to begin with three hills. I'm going to do one down low in the foreground, one in the middle ground, and one up high in the background. Okay? Now on these three hills, I'm going to do three trees, really simple trees, just to give you an idea of what I'm talking about. I'm going to do one tree, and it's going to be so big, so tall, that it goes all the way to the bottom of my paper, and it almost touches the top of my paper. Now I want to make sure that I erase those hills behind it so that we overlap correctly. And this tree, I wanted to look like this tree was the closest one to me. That's why I made it so big. But if you notice, I started at the bottom of my paper. This is called foreground. Whatever you want to look like it's close to you, whether it's a tree, a house, a building, a car, you need to make that the biggest thing on your paper. And you need to draw it down low on your paper. So you can see that the bottom of my tree is down low. It's touching the bottom. It's touching the floor. Kind of sounds like floor ground, but it's called foreground. And that object, whatever that object is, needs to be the biggest object on your paper. So I made this tree really, really big, so much so that it's almost touching the top of my paper. And now I want to draw this same exact tree, but I want to make it look like it's just a little bit farther away. Not too far, but just a little bit farther away. So I'm going to draw that same tree, and I'm going to do it here in the middle section of my paper. And I'm not going to make it as big. I'm going to make it medium size. So the same tree, just for the sake of this video, you can do whatever object you want. And you can see that this tree is not as big as the other one. It's medium size. And where did I draw it? I drew it right in the middle of my paper. This is called middle ground because it's in the middle of my paper and it's not big, it's medium. It's medium size. So I have my foreground really, really big. I have my middle ground medium, and now I need my background. I need to make a tree look like it's really, really, really far away in the distance, so far that it's really, really small. So I'm going to draw that same tree, but this time it's really small and it's in the distance. And this tree, because it's higher up on my paper and it's small, is called background. Because it's far, far away, way in the back. And it's not big, it's not medium, it's small. And there you have it. You have your two tricks. You have the placement of your object down low, in the middle, and up high, foreground, middle ground, background, and the size of the object, really, really big, medium, and small. So again, foreground, middle ground, background, big, medium, and small. The two most important tricks. Now, another thing that artists do is whatever's in the foreground, they're gonna put the most details into it. You're gonna see everything really, really clear, just like in real life. When you see something up close, you can see all of the details. And as things get farther away, they get a little blurrier and you don't see as many of the details. So if I wanted to add details to this tree, I would add a bunch of very clear details, making the colors really nice and sharp. And as things got farther away, the colors would get lighter and the details would get just a little bit blurrier. And there you have a very simple foreground, middle ground, background landscape.